For over 90 years, one charity has campaigned passionately to help horses. Originally founded to stop the export of British horses to the slaughterhouses of Europe, World Horse Welfare and its ardent supporters secured groundbreaking legislation to help prevent horses, donkeys and mules from leaving Britain's shores for slaughter. That legislation still exists today. The campaign to protect the welfare of horses destined for the human food chain has since developed and focused on horses in mainland Europe, where horses were transported vast distances in horrific conditions to slaughterhouses. World Horse Welfare has continued to push the plight of these poor animals into the forefront of the political agenda, changing policy, practice, and attitudes, and through active campaigning which has gained the support of millions of people. In 2001, over 165,000 horses were transported long distances across Europe to slaughter. The conditions they experienced were horrific. Mixed groups of mares, stallions, and youngsters, sometimes 30 at a time, were loaded into lorries. Under stressful conditions, fights were commonplace, and fallen horses were often trampled by those around them. The lorries were empty shells, designed to hold as many horses as possible, with no thought as to the welfare of the animals on board. Often, the horses had to be pulled from the lorry at the end of the journey. We campaigned ardently to bring changes to the conditions these horses had to endure. In 2004, the European Commission changed the legislation, improving some conditions for horses. Introducing partitions in lorries helped to prevent fighting, falling, and trampling, one of many recommendations advocated by our campaign. Now, we rarely see fallen horses during transportation. It's clearly a significant improvement. And with your support, we have also helped to reduce the number of horses being transported long distances across Europe to slaughter from around 50,000 in 2010 to around 30,000 in 2016, a reduction of 40% in just 6 years. Official figures show the major route is still between Poland and Italy, where in 2012 around 17,000 horses were transported over this vast distance to slaughter. In 2016, this number had reduced to 12,000 horses. But this is still too many, and we won't stop till the number is zero, and we need your help. The distances the horses have to travel are painfully long. One commonly used route sees horses that are sourced in Poland travel through Slovakia and into Hungary, where there is a control post that offers feed, watering, and rest for animals in transit. Under the current legislation, horses may be transported for a maximum period of 24 hours. During the journey, they must be given liquid and if necessary fed every 8 hours, but many are not. Some responsible transporters use control posts such as this one to water and feed the horses during their journey. It is at these control posts where World Horse Welfare staff are able to observe the horses closely. The horses often show the signs of a difficult journey. Exhausted and weak, showing signs of discomfort and pain, and extreme thirst. From here, the horses can then be transported again for another 24 hours, and so on. Their route takes them further south, often in sweltering heat, until they reach their final destination, a slaughterhouse in the south of Italy. World Horse Welfare is calling for an end to the long-distance transportation of horses to slaughter across Europe. There are many licensed slaughterhouses across Europe. These horses could be slaughtered closer to their source, but despite this, these needless journeys continue. We want to see a short finite journey limit introduced to prevent this suffering. We need you to help us to convince the European Commission to introduce a maximum journey limit of 9 to 12 hours, ending the torment caused by these relentless journeys. These legislative changes would also make it easier for transporters to comply with, and more straightforward for authorities to enforce the legislation, as these shorter journeys could be harmonised with driver working times and rest times. Not only do we want to see the conditions in which horses travel to slaughter improve, we want better compliance with and enforcement of the legislation that is already in place.
Together, we have achieved so much, but we need supporters like you to join the campaign now, so we can end these needless journeys by 2027.
Help them now.